We want to take a closer look at all those issues Maggie just laid out, as well as more. Joining us now is U.S. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona. Secretary Cardona, thank you so much for your time and joining our program live this morning. We appreciate it. So, let's just dive in right there with what Maggie's report just showed. I think some people watch that and think, how did we get here? How is it possible that they're just asking for things like smaller class sizes and air conditioning? What needs to be done to meet teachers' needs and stop not only the mass exodus that's causing the shortage, but strikes?
Right. Well, listen, it is back to school season. So millions of students and families are excited about their first day of school, and educators across the country are too. But, I think the reporting that Maggie did just brings to the surface what the reality is out there. We still have, in many cases, conditions where, the class size might be high or the infrastructure of the building is not up to par. We want to make sure our students are going back to schools that are better, not only physically, but the programming. Our students have suffered a lot. So we want to make sure that this year is a better year. We have very strongly encouraged the use of the American Rescue Plan dollars, unprecedented funds, $130 billion across the country, to make sure that we're recruiting teachers, retaining teachers. It's not just about recruiting, it's about keeping them, making sure we're paying bonuses where needed, bringing retired teachers back in without any penalty to their retirement benefits, and creating long-term strategies like grow your own programs. We have so many students. We need to tap them on the shoulder and help them believe that they are the next wave of teachers. So there's a lot of work to be done. However, this did not start with the pandemic. It was made worse by the pandemic. This has been an issue for many decades in education. We need to lift the profession as we give students opportunities and give them a better education than ever before.
Mr. Secretary, you just mentioned some of the ideas that have been floated to try to kind of fill some of these gaps. Another one that we're seeing in some school districts is really the requirements shifting to become a teacher, looking at recruiting people from other fields. For example, in Florida, they're looking at veterans to help fill this gap. We've heard on both sides of this issue, people who think, great, we can get, responsible people in these classrooms. We're also hearing from some teachers who think, it's harder than you'd think. What do you think of these plans to find alternate teachers from paths that don't just include going to school to become a teacher?
When I was a school principal, I often recruited folks who had teaching as their second profession. They might have come from a different sector. But those folks had to have had the training, adequate training, and professional development to be a certified teacher. This is not a hobby. This is a profession. And I think if your first strategy is to lower standards to a profession that's already getting disrespected, then you're part of the problem. Let's face it. That doesn't mean we don't find creative solutions. We don't work with universities. In fact, we need to work with our universities to make sure that they're being malleable as well, to make sure teacher preparation programs are flexible to meet the needs of the community. But lowering standards for students, lowering standards for teacher qualifications at a time when students need more, when academically they're behind, when socially and emotionally they need support, lowering standards to become teachers is not the right strategy. If anything, we need to help our teachers have the professional development that they need to meet the students with the greater demand they're entering our classrooms with.
And what would you say to a parent in a district like that whose child is essentially looking at a really large class size, or someone who wasn't trained to be a teacher? What would you tell a parent?
I would tell parents what I'm telling parents across the country. This year, I want to see more parents engage in authentic engagement with their schools. I think, if we're talking about lifting the teaching profession, it's all hands on deck. Who better than parents to talk about what the needs of their children are and how the school needs to meet their needs? And I think, when parents speak, folks listen. And it's really important that we engage in communication with our local boards, with our leaders to say, yes, we need more support in our schools. You have more money than ever before, but we shouldn't be lowering our standards. Our kids need more, not less.
Mr. Secretary, let's switch gears to another issue that's on a lot of people's minds, not just parents, and that's student loans. A pause on student loan repayments is set to expire next week. CNN is reporting the White House is considering forgiving up to $10,000 worth of loans for people who earn less than $125,000. So first of all, is that the number, 10,000? Can you confirm that?
No, there's no news to share today. I did read that report too, but look, there's nothing to announce today. What I will tell you is that when a decision is made, I know the president will be speaking directly to the people across America who are waiting to hear. It's not something that I am prepared to announce today, and I know there's a lot of speculation because it is on the mind of many people. What I am proud of is that from day one till now, over $32 billion in loan forgiveness has been provided. But equally as important, it doesn't get as much attention, but equally as important, we're fixing a broken system that got us to this mess that we're in now. We're fixing a broken system so that 5 years from now, we're not in the same position. We're definitely keeping our borrowers front and center and our students front and center. We're going to continue to do that.
Not today, but the deadline is quickly approaching. Do you think the president's going to do something about it this week?
Well, with regard to the pause, without question, the 31st is coming up very quickly, and borrowers need to know. So I anticipate that there's going to be information about that before the 31st, obviously, but nothing to share with you right now.
All right. I mean, there are millions of Americans out there who are trying to plan budgets for the fall. Right. Inflation's high. They're feeling kind of stuck right now. What is your message to those who are worried about this, waiting for an answer, and also, you know, think the numbers should be higher, maybe up to $50,000?
Let me tell you, from day one, this president's been about substance, not sensationalism. Look at the track record. Look at what has been done. $32 billion in 1.5 years is more than any other administration combined. And we're going to continue with that mentality of keeping our borrowers front and center, keeping our students front and center in every decision that we make. We don't take this lightly. I would tell folks who are listening, check out public service loan forgiveness. You might be eligible today. Studentaid.gov. We are fighting hard for our students. We want to make sure higher education is accessible. And we know education is the great equalizer. The president has run on this, and he's leading this way. And we're going to continue to push forward to make sure that higher education is accessible to more Americans across our country.
Mr. Secretary, we have less than a minute here, but I really want to ask you, you've been outspoken about Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill, saying you were deeply disheartened by it, that your Office of Civil Rights stands ready for anyone who feels they're facing discrimination, that they can file a complaint. First, have you received any complaints yet?
You know, I have to refer to my Assistant Secretary for OCR about whether or not complaints have come in specifically from Florida on this issue. But I'll reiterate what I said before. No student in this country should feel like they don't belong in a public school. That's unacceptable. That's un-American. And we're going to make sure that all students, regardless of whatever circumstance, whatever background they have, that they feel welcome. Our students need more support as we come back from this pandemic. They don't need less. And we have to make sure that our leaders are held accountable to making sure our schools are inclusive. That's what we're going to fight for, and that's what our students and families deserve.
Secretary Miguel Cardona, thanks so much for joining us this morning and answering so many questions. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. Good to see you again, Secretary. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.